The Chiefs were able to get a victory over the Las Vegas Raiders on a botched snap, which led to a fumble, which ended up in the Chiefs' hands. Then there was a penalty. It was an illegal shift, although as soon as the flag came in, the top referee on the screen said that it was a false start, which would have negated the fumble. It was a complete mess, but the Chiefs are able to escape with another victory, this time over the Las Vegas Raiders. They only win by 2 points. I believe this is their 8th win, I'm pretty sure, of one score. So it's impressive that they're able to win this game, but I want to know, what was your reaction to the Chiefs' narrow victory over the Las Vegas Raiders?
They are the luckiest team in NFL history.
Thank you.
That to be my reaction. How many more games are they going to win like this when they play like crap? I mean, they didn't play well. You look at what they were able to do in the first quarter. They had a field goal. That was the only score in the first quarter. In the second quarter, the Raiders got a field goal. The Chiefs got a touchdown near the end of the first half, a 6-yarder to Justin Watson. And then in the third quarter, the Kansas City got another field goal, 42 yards, and they got another one for 35 yards, and the Raiders got a touchdown. And then the fourth quarter, the Raiders got a TD, 5 yards to Tucker, and then the Kansas City scored another field goal, 32 yards. No touchdowns at all in the second half of the Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 46, 306 yards, 1 TD. I guess you could say that's not such a bad performance. He didn't have any interceptions, but he only had 1 touchdown. O'Connell actually outplayed him, 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 TDs. So the Chiefs, I don't get it. I mean, they are so lucky. They've won so many one-score games where the other team has handed them the game at the end. The way this game ended, I get Antonio Pierce has got to be fuming. The way the center snapped the ball to O'Connell before he even went for it. He didn't even see it coming. It bounced off his shoulder. Then he tried to recover it, and the other player kicked it, so he couldn't get it. And then a Chief fell on it, and then there was a penalty, and the Chiefs wound up declining the penalty, and they wind up getting the ball with 1 second left, and that's it. Well, it's a crazy ending to a game. It's so anticlimactic and boring. Actually, I say, how could you make so many mistakes? They had another chance to tie it with a field goal. The kicker missed it,
and so that was what's bizarre. Antonio Pierce sent the punt team out originally, then called a timeout, then sent the kicker out with a 91% chance to miss the field goal, which he did after missing a few others earlier on in the game. Carlson couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He was missing all over the place. And yet your defense did hold up very well. And you had an opportunity. Aidan O'Connell made some phenomenal throws. There was a back shoulder throw to Jacoby Myers earlier in the game in kind of triple coverage. There were 3 or 4 Chiefs around in the area. Jacoby Myers came back on the pass, and it was a beautiful throw, beautiful catch. And then in this drive, the final drive, I mean, he looked like Tom Brady just tearing up the defense.
Yeah, I mean, they went right down the field.
Yeah.
It was like, I couldn't believe it. They were in field goal range.
Where was that the rest of the game?
Yeah, I know. Suddenly, they just moved the ball right down the field.
I think they were like they were on like the 8 or 9 yard line, maybe even closer to their own end zone. But Aidan O'Connell did a phenomenal job. Yeah. Brock Bowers also had a phenomenal one-hand catch in this game. And so I think when it comes down to it, again, this is another example of how the Chiefs just get very unlucky. Very lucky, excuse me.
What are you talking about? Very unlucky?
No, very lucky, excuse me. Because your rookie center snapped the ball when everybody wasn't expecting it. Everybody was still getting to the line. Nobody was ready for it.
I don't know what he was thinking.
And then they snap it, and then a Chief falls on it. Now, they did a phenomenal job stopping Mahomes. I think they had 5 sacks on Mahomes in this game, so the offensive line for the Chiefs, we already know. Their 2 tackles are terrible. 5 sacks, he lost 40 yards, he had an 84 passer rating. Aidan O'Connell, on the other hand, 23 or 35 for 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and here's the big one, 0 interceptions. O'Connell played a tremendous game against a pretty decent, at least that's what we think, Chiefs team. Mm-hmm. But recently, this is now the 2nd straight week where the Chiefs have really struggled against very inferior teams. They were this close to losing to Carolina.
Panthers. Yeah.
Mahomes needed to run 30 yards to set up a field
Their
goal.
luck is going to run out. I predict it. I think that their luck will. They're going to have the first seed in the playoffs. I picked it in the last show. I said that they would wind up with the first bye, and with a 15-2 record. And I thought they'd probably lose the last game of the season because they have nothing to play for. But once they get in the playoffs, man, you're not going to get these kinds of mistakes that other teams make. You're going to be playing some good teams, and they're going to know what they're doing, and they're going to be planning for you. And I think the chances of the Chiefs getting to the Super Bowl this time, I don't like it so much the way they've been playing lately.
Well, I think that it just takes one team to play as safe as possible. Josh Allen did that beautifully. He didn't throw it on a 4th and 2. He's 6'5", 240. He ran the damn ball. He took it himself, head down, and charged through and scored the game-winning touchdown. The Bills' defense did a tremendous job taking the ball away from the Chiefs, and the Raiders' defense didn't take the ball away, but they made Mahomes very uncomfortable.
5 sacks.
5 sacks, a loss of 40 yards on those sacks, and I'm looking at the pressures right now. They pressured Mahomes 23 times and hurried him 15 times.
Yeah.
Mahomes, passer rating wise, is one of the lowest passer ratings when pressured. And normally, if you could contain him, because he likes to roll out and get those back-breaking and soul-crushing rushes like he did against the Panthers, like he did in several playoff games last year. If you can contain him, which you can do now because their 2 tackles are terrible. They did pick up one, but he's not there quite yet. But as of right now, their 2 tackles are terrible. Juwan Taylor, he's always getting illegal formations or false starts. You just got to look at him. He always jumps early or he's always lined up way too far behind the center.
He still doesn't seem to be on the same page with Worthy either.
No.
I mean, Worthy gets open and he overthrows it.
Well, yeah, there was that 4th down play where Worthy was open.
Yeah.
Just completely missed him. There was one, I think, on the sideline as well. Just missed him.
The other thing I would say is Antonio Pierce. I don't think he's done a very good job this year, personally. I look at
they're 2-10, so yeah,
they're 2-10. Yeah. He called out the players in one of the games, saying that they were playing for business, making business decisions out on the field. He shouldn't. He can say that in the locker room, but not to the press. That was bad. And then they wound up getting on the wrong side of Devontae Adams, and he wound up being traded. He brought in Gardner Minshew, and who has played terrible this year. Let him play so many games, benched him, brought him back in, benched him, brought him back in, benched him, brought him back in. Then you have O'Connell, who played well at the end of last year after they benched Garoppolo, and he was a rookie and he played reasonably well. You gotta give that guy a chance. And look how he played today. I don't, he did hurt his thumb. He was brought in and he hurt his thumb and he was out for a while. So now he's back in. Let him play the rest of the year. Put Gardner Minshew on a train to somewhere else because he plays
he's
terrible.
Out for the year. He's out for the year.
Well, he was playing there not too long ago, and the last game, and now he's out. So good. I'd say O'Connell should finish the season. See what he's got. He showed promise. Look how he played today. So give him a chance. You gotta. I don't know where. I don't think Antonio Pierce has done very well this year.
Well, I could agree with that because his defense, right? That was the big thing. He's going to be a very physical defensive coach, and his defense currently ranks 30th in points allowed and 14th in total defense. And yes, they had one great victory over the Baltimore Ravens and a close victory over Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. But they got blown out by Denver on a late quarterback issue. Desmond Ridder was their backup. Got blown out by Miami. Blown out by the Bengals. Again, close victory, close loss against the Chiefs. Blown out by the Steelers. Blown out by Denver again. Blown out by the Chargers. They got blown out by the Carolina Panthers. Like you can't do it. Yes, and by the way,
that's a head coaching issue. When 1 week you almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs, one of the best teams in the NFL. Other weeks you get blown out by teams that have no business even being out on the field.
Yeah,
I mean it's really crazy. I mean the second week of the season they beat Baltimore.
Yes,
right. It looked like they had something going there, and then they fell apart. That's on the coaching staff.
Well, here's one thing, and I'm not going to be like, well, Zamir, what? I mean, we were told that this team is a playoff team, that they could be at least above a 500 team and make the playoffs. That Zamir White and Abdullah would be perfectly fine. Alexander Madison would be perfectly fine running game. Quick check, they're dead last in running.
Huh.
The defense with Max Crosby going to be very, very dominant. Defensive backs, very underrated. Dead last in takeaways. Dead last in fumbles recovered. And by the way, they've also given up the most turnovers and had the most fumbles lost in the NFL.
Yeah, well, you're not going to win if you haven't got consistently decent quarterback play, at least game management. And that's where Antonio Pierce has blown it, by switching the quarterbacks in and out, in and out, in and out. And sticking with Gardner Minshew, who's having a terrible season. You should have stuck with O'Connell. I mean, he's the young guy. He played well at the end of last year. Give him a chance. It's sometimes these guys, it takes them a little while to get their sea legs and then start to perform well. And O'Connell played very well today. He should play the rest of the season.
I think he will, because the only way he wouldn't is if he either gets hurt or loses his job to Desmond Ritter.
Well,
I don't see Aidan O'Connell losing his job to Desmond Ritter.
That's for sure.
I completely agree with you, but you know what? It's an unfortunate situation. Do I think that Antonio Pierce will be fired after this year? No, I don't.
No, I don't
I think that the players appreciate him too much. They fought for him to get this head coaching job.
Even though he said they're playing for business.
Well, that was this year. Last year, because he was the interim head coach, he did a decent job
out on the field.
Well, everybody knew Davante Adams was probably going to be gone, because if you look at the Netflix receiver series, Davante Adams was going to force his way out of Las Vegas last year if Garoppolo remained the starter. So to me, him leaving this year wasn't a big shock. But again, this is the second time the Raiders almost beat the Chiefs. Last time, they only lost by 7 points. This time, they only lose by 2 on a rookie center botching a snap.
Nobody loses to the Chiefs by very much.
Yeah.
They're lucky. They're the luckiest team in the history of the NFL this season to only have one loss with the way they played and the way Mahomes has played. His ranking, where is he? He's not even in the top 15, is he?
Well, you have him at 9 in your top 10 list. You have Mahomes at 9.
Yeah.
And that's due to your algorithm and your methodology.
Yeah, right. True. But the way where is he ranked in the QBR right now? I don't think he's up in the top.
I'll bring up the number in a second. But I do want to add some context to these wins. Why don't we do that? Week 1. Lamar Jackson decides to sail a ball towards Isaiah Likely instead of gunning it to him in the left corner of the end zone, which would have been a touchdown. And then it got followed up by him throwing it in between 2 receivers. That was one. And then Isaiah Likely being out by a toe in the end zone. Yeah. The Bengals lost by 1 on a 4th down defensive pass interference call on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Falcons, you win by 5 points after the Falcons had a terrible start to the season. The Chargers, you only beat them by 7, but Mahomes injures Rashee Rice. He'll probably be out for the year. New Orleans Saints, they were just frauds. You beat them by 13 points. I guess that's a good win. 49ers, Purdy throw 3 picks in Kansas City territory. The Raiders, the first time, you only won by 7 points. The Buccaneers, it took you to overtime to beat a team without its top 2 receivers in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. The Broncos, you won by the first time in 21 years, as far as the data goes back, where a team driving and kicks a field goal within the 40-yard line when the clock expires, the first time in 21 years for that to have happened. The Buffalo Bills game, Josh Allen played a great game. He played perfectly, and the Bills defense was able to capitalize on your soft offense, and you ended up losing by 9 points. It wasn't a close loss. It wasn't a narrow victory at all. You lost by 9. And then against the Panthers, it took you a 30-yard scramble late to finally put them out by a field goal. And in this game, it took a rookie center to a botched snap for you to beat them. Like these are not convincing victories.
Not at all.
And you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, where they won 11 one-score games.
Yeah.
What happened the first game in the playoffs?
They lost.
They lost
to the Giants.
To Daniel Jones and the New York Giants, and they didn't even look good doing it.
Now Daniel Jones was playing for the Vikings.
Now, obviously, Mahomes is better than Kirk Cousins, and this team has more pieces, I think, overall than that Vikings team did. But it's still the same premise. Playoff games will come down to the 7 best teams in each conference. And if you're the 1 seed, guess what? You skip over the fraudulent teams anyway. That wild card round is filled with fraudulence and barely people getting into the playoffs. Then you're going to play legitimate playoff contenders, which probably boils down to, if we look at the seeding right now, you would either play Buffalo, as of right now, Buffalo, Baltimore, the Chargers, Denver, or Baltimore. Those are the three teams you could potentially play against. I think there's an opportunity for you to lose to all three of those teams.
I do too.
Baltimore, I think, will give you a run for your money, although with Lamar's playoff history, and have this, I won't even include the Baltimore Ravens playoff history, if people want to get uptight about me calling out Lamar for his poor performances. The Ravens playoff history. Denver has a rookie quarterback, but outplayed you already. And then the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins' health. He is a primary piece of that offense. And the fact that Ladd McConkey is their best target, and he's actually statistically worse than T. Higgins, who's a wide receiver too. So they just don't have the talent, but their defense is really, really good. So there's an opportunity for the Chargers in their first playoff game to get dropped by a wild card team because they do not look good. And here's the crazy thing. What if they somehow pull out the Super Bowl this year and win 3 straight?
I'll be shocked now.
I mean, everybody would be.
I don't think. I personally don't think it's going to happen now, the way you see them play. I mean, I generally pick them, and I've been right on the wins, but the point spread, I get it wrong every week. With them.
Well, fortunately, we both picked 13.5 for the Raiders to cover.
Yeah.
Although I will say you did flip from earlier this week. You said the Chiefs would blow them out, but your picks were in today. You had the Raiders plus 13.5, so I do give you that win.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I mean, I said this for several weeks. When is it going to run out? It ran out against the Bills, and you're playing bad teams. I think that's partially what it is. The Chiefs have just played bad football teams. The Panthers,
they've actually had a pretty easy schedule when you look at it.
The Saints are frauds. Raiders, you played twice. The 49ers, which they're not a good team this year. Like, that's perfectly fine.
No, they got them. They're
old and injured, and Purdy, we are seeing now, he's not an elite quarterback.
I'm not so sure.
They're 5-6, I think.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm not sure Brock Purdy.
He's not an elite quarterback.
Well, he's had some very good games.
The Falcons are no good. Their defense is atrocious. Chargers don't have offensive weapons, really. The Ravens, you lost by a toe. The Bengals, it took a 4th down penalty. Like, okay, now you're going up against the Chargers next week at home. I expect the Chargers to win.
I do too.
And then you're at
I'm gonna pick them.
Browns. Then home against the Texans, at Steelers, at Broncos.
They could wind up with a lot of losses here down the stretch.
Well, you have them only losing one more game.
I know, but that was before today's game. I mean, I'm playing the team that only won 2 games so far.
Yeah.
And look how close it was. In fact, you would have lost if it hadn't been for them messing up so much. They beat themselves. That's what's happened to a lot of these teams. They beat themselves. They could have beat the Chiefs. They wound up beating themselves.
Yeah. Although with Carlson missing 3 field goals.
That's ridiculous. That's what it said. They beat themselves.
I mean, if you add that, that's 9 points. It's 26-19.
Yeah, they would have won easily.
Well, even then, the Chiefs would need a touchdown to win.
Yeah, well, the Chiefs couldn't score a touchdown the second half. All they had was field goals.
Yeah, so Pacheco came back. He played pretty well, 6 yards a carry. He had 44 yards on 7 carries. He had a big long rush of 34 yards. That was literally the biggest chunk of his yardage. He only 10 yards beside that on 6 carries. So the Raiders defensively did a very good job at slowing down the Chiefs' dynamic offense. Mahomes did get 306 yards, but a lot of dink and dunk. They were able to get to him 5 times. 81 passer rating. I mean, it's not a good performance at all. The Chiefs are, once again, lucky to pull out this win. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching this clip of the Harvey Hour. If you want to watch the full show, you can by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to take the show with you on the go, it is available wherever you get your podcast. We go live here on YouTube every single Tuesday and Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell to get notified whenever we upload a video and whenever we go live.